John C. Bogle, also known as Jack Bogle, is a complete fraud. This man has cost the average retail investor astronomical levels of wealth and security, pushing his fallacious philosophy known as the Boglehead philosophy, also known as index fund investing. Now, you may not have been paying attention over the past 5 years, but the average index funds, where you blindly buy a basket of stocks every 2 weeks without doing any analysis, have massively underperformed some of the most high-flying, innovative, and futuristic technology companies and digital assets. And the reason this has happened is because the average retail investor has realized that Wall Street, with John Bogle, oh, by the way, the late John Bogle, have been colluding together to keep the retail investor from actively participating in the market. Hedge funds, institutions, dark pools love dumb money. And they needed a amazing, smart, feel-good narrative to convince people to become dumb money. The hedge funds don't want to compete with the retail trader. They don't want to compete with the retail investor. They want to be able to take as much money as they possibly can and extract it from the trillions and trillions of dollars of dumb money flooding into the market. Now, you may get offended. You may think that I'm kind of a mean person for, criticizing the late Jack Bogle. But I can attest to the fact that this philosophy does not work. Over the past 12 years, I have been an index fund investor. I have bought the Vanguard Total World Index Fund for the past 12 years of my life. And guess what? I have massively underperformed the U.S. stock market because of my fraudulent belief that owning every stock would somehow give you superior performance. And I look back at myself and I say I was completely delusional because it's obvious that there are thousands. I wish there were millions. There are thousands of stocks that are held in these index funds that are completely worthless, that are losing money, that are dropping in share price precipitously, that have corrupt management. They have stocks that are listed in foreign exchanges, which you can't trust and don't have tight securities laws to maintain proper oversight. There are huge problems with a total world index fund, which blindly buys every stock at its market capitalization weight. And if you think about it logically for 1 second, if somebody's selling you on this dream, this vision, that you can just buy one investment, and as long as you hold it for 20 or 30 years, you're going to beat the average active retail fund manager. That is a delusional narrative. That's too good to be true. There was one rule in investing, and the rule is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Now, the vision of John C. Bogle in the Boglehead community is to constantly push index funds. You can beat active managers. You can beat the professionals. You just have to buy and hold. Think about that critically. You mean to tell me that you, the average dum-dum that does zero stock market analysis, is actually going to beat hedge fund traders and professional fund managers? That is a laughable concept. You're competing with the pros, but the pros are happy because you believe this fairy tale, this nonsense, that buying every single company, Pakistani pottery barns, Indian textile manufacturers, Afghani windmill farms, you think that is going to beat the best hedge funds in the world? You are absolutely delusional. This Boglehead philosophy is toxic because it has kept retail investors from making obvious, informed, and smart decisions, and it has destroyed people's portfolios. I'm not even a millionaire yet, and I completely blame this outdated philosophy, which has convinced me for the past 12 years, to invest in a blindly diversified index fund, buying all the frickin' junk around the world, when I could have just taken some common sense notes and bought some of the best companies that were ever existed and ever are going to exist. Thank you. I appreciate it. On top of that, these clowns recommend that you buy bonds. Bonds issued by the government, which are losing, underperforming to inflation. If you had listened to a Boglehead, you would have bought a bunch of nasty, garbage international stocks, and oh my God, have they massively underperformed. We're going to go look in a second. You would have had a huge chunk of your portfolio in international stocks in a bunch of demographically dying, uninnovative countries, or communist China, and you would have had a big chunk of your portfolio in bonds, which have collapsed because of interest rates going up. Your portfolio would have massively lagged even the worst fund manager that is taking active measures to beat the market. And you, thinking that you're such a genius, think you could beat the market by just dollar cost averaging and holding an index fund. You've been sold a bill of goods. Now, let me show you how bad the Bogleheads are, okay? So the Bogleheads are all about total market investing. Buy every stock. Don't do any analysis. It's that easy. You don't have to think. You're going to become a millionaire just by not thinking. Well, this is the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund. This tracks the performance of the U.S. stock market. Oh, it's up 412%. Well, because you're a Boglehead, you've also purchased an international index. Wow. Let's look at the performance here. U.S. stocks, since inception, as far as this chart goes, have performed at a 412% return. But because you bought international, because that's what the Bogleheads told you, because you can't time the market, even though it's obvious, you would have only got a 38% return. Over what, 5 decades? You underperformed inflation buying international stocks, okay? Now, that's not even the worst part. Let's look at bonds, because you got to have bonds to be a good Boglehead, right? Well, let's look at BND, the total bond market index. It's down. It's down since inception. What is going on here? How could you have bought these lies? And that's not the worst part. Even if you just did U.S. total market investing, you would have missed obvious tech outperformers like QQQ, some of the most innovative, best companies in the world. Look at the performance differential between highly profitable, rapidly growing monopolies and the U.S. total market. You would have had more than double the wealth had you ignored this pissant philosophy. And actually, you would have more than doubled because you would have been in international stocks and bonds. Think about the life that this philosophy cost you. Think about the financial damage that this philosophy cost you. Because you believe the lie that you can't beat the market. They want you to think that. They want you to think that. Let's throw on Bitcoin on this chart. Let's see how Bitcoin, the worthless Boglehead asset, oh my God, 23,819% versus like a 50% return that you would have gotten being a Boglehead. This is a laughable philosophy. This is a laughable investment philosophy. This is a complete and utter joke. This is a disaster. How could you possibly have believed this? I look at myself in the mirror every day and I think I'm an idiot. I am a fool and a moron and an idiot for believing this nonsense. I'm embarrassed. My children are not going to be able to go to college like I want them to. They're not going to be able to go to the best schools because I listen to these absolute boneheads that push me to buy absolute freaking trash. I am furious at where I could have been in life had I actually listened to reasonable, common sense investment solutions outside of this outdated garbage investing philosophy. This is a complete freaking joke. I was sold a bill of goods, and everybody else is. Wall Street wants dumb money constantly flowing into the stock market, and they can use that and trade around that and arbitrage that to make an absolute killing. You think you're buying this passive index that's going to beat the managers? The managers are exploiting you. They're destroying you. They're ending you. And you're going to keep buying your index funds because you believe the philosophy. Just buy and hold, hey? Now, here's the last exposure of this garbage philosophy, okay? So I went to ChatGPT and I said, type in the top 20 best performing hedge funds of all time and their 20-year compounded annual growth rates. Because hedge funds, active managers can't beat the market. That's impossible to beat the market, right? Well, number one here, we have Renaissance Technologies, Jim Simmons. 66% compounded annual returns. That is an astronomical return. They had 60% returns over 3 decades. But you can't beat the market, huh? Not even listed on here, or maybe he's further down, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett disproves the philosophy at the get-go. The dude, Berkshire Hathaway, has crushed the stock market. But they want you to believe you can't beat the market so they can siphon all of your wealth and line their pockets. But retail has figured this out. Retail actually knows what's going on now. We see your game and we're not playing it anymore. We're not playing your game anymore. We are playing the game of the common man. We are playing the game. We are going to take back our birthright and stop this Wall Street plundering of the average person. And trust me, the index fund and all the philosophizing and all the pushing of these funds is all part of the plan for Wall Street. And the vast majority of people have bought into it like a bunch of dopes. So you go down this list and you can see Ray Dalio, Ken Griffin, David Shaw, Israel Englander, on and on and on. Proof positive that a bunch of hedge funds and a bunch of active managers who are so bad can beat the market. Now, the man has died, and I don't want to besmirch his memory too bad, but you have to give honest criticism when criticism is due. This philosophy is toxic. It is disgusting and toxic, and it needs to go. Most of retail is still convinced of the lie that the index fund will give them a secure retirement. Yeah, maybe you'll have $1 million in 30 years when inflation has gone up by 5% per year. I'm sure you're going to have an amazing retirement, while the Wall Street bankers and active hedge fund managers are going to have billions and billions and billions of dollars that they made massively outperforming the market and exploiting the passive dumb money flowing into a total market index fund. This is absolutely disgusting. I can't take this anymore. I feel betrayed to my core. My life feels like it was a bunch of lies, and my life is collapsing around me. I'm disgusted. God, I'm trying not to get too emotional here. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I know this is going to be a controversial video, but I appreciate you staying to the end. Like, subscribe. Consider joining the membership for exclusive content. I need to go for a run to let off some of my frustration, because every time I see my children now, I just think of what this philosophy cost me, and I can't even put words into it how upset I am. Have a good night.